So I had a pretty weird experience where I was inside of a carnival for kids, and I couldn't tell if I was indoors or outdoors, but it felt pretty indoorsy other than the paths that were, dirt and they had elevation and slopes and stuff. And I was in this carnival, and I could see a lot of things now that I couldn't see before. So I felt like I was in this carnival when I was in elementary school as a kid in this dream realm, and a bit afterwards. And I was very familiar with it. I was familiar with a lot of the carnival attractions, but this time I could see that a lot of the attractions were not humans in costumes, they were extraterrestrial beings, and I could also see these other extraterrestrials that were kind of like quasi materialized that I could walk through, and I wasn't really supposed to see them, or I didn't before, none of the other kids do now. And I would look them in the eyes and they'd become very surprised that I could see them. Or I'd ask them questions that are abnormally intelligible that would make them surprised. Like I would ask them, of course, what the name of their species is, or what planet they're from, or whatever. And this time was just like asking what the name was, just because that's what I wanted to hear about. I got one solid value, and then one that I don't, well, a lot that I don't remember, but one that I half remember. And I'll get into that later, but I was observing this one being. It was a two-dimensional being in a sense. It was this two-dimensional surface that took the form of a Simpsons character, I think Homer, and I was panning around it, and every time I panned around it, it would just adjust its curves to look realistic, to look kind of 3D, but it looked really flat other than that, and it looked like something off of The Simpsons, the 2D animation. And I got right close to this being, and I noticed that there was Adobe Illustrator tabs around all of its layers. And I said, well, that tech isn't available for quite some time. Where did you get that? Because this is like a past experience, so I thought that Adobe Illustrator CC is not available. And from the looks of the tabs, this was Adobe Illustrator CC. It looked kind of like a Mac UI theme, but it was pretty modern. And it didn't really reply, so I just started, looking around. There was a lot of gelatin creatures. There was one gelatin creature that had a normal humanoid looking body, and it had this flat disc separating its head from the rest of its body. And it was just this gelatin extrusion that looked kind of like a raindrop. Didn't even look like any sort of typical humanoid head. And there was a lot of other gelatin creatures. There was a gelatin snake-like creature. And there was also this one thing this one species, there was a bunch of them, that were humanoid, but their entire hands were suction cups, and their entire soles of their feet were suction cups, and their torso had a giant suction cup on it, and there was this big old suction cup around their face. It was just like this big old puffed out creature that you would typically find underwater. And I asked them what the name of their species was, and they told me that their name was Sierra C colon or Sierra C columns. And there was these other potato head looking creatures next to them, and I asked them what their species name is, and they said that they were Sierra something or other. I don't remember the last bit, but they're apparently from the same planet as the other creatures, or the same planetary system at least, judging from the name. And the kids in this carnival were a bit confused as to what I was doing a lot of the times, because they didn't see these extraterrestrials that I could just walk through, like the ones that I normally wouldn't see. And I was talking to them, and the kids were like wondering what I was doing. They thought I was crazy, but I didn't really care. So that's that experience, or the significant aspects of it. See you later.